Well, welcome back to Mr. Obsolete's Vintage Homesteading. Today we're going to be cleaning up a bunch of brush and the tree we cut down on our last video. We were using our Homelite Super EZ automatic. Unfortunately, it's got some air leaks, probably crank seals, so it'll be a winter project. So, like I said, Mr. Pooh to the rescue. Haven't had the poo saw out for a while, so we'll be cutting up the trees and the debris around here, trying to clean the place up. And the other thing that we're doing is we need to run a couple of more tanks of fuel through this, and then we're going to use the bore scope and see if the Echo Red Armor oil takes the carbon and ash off the top of the piston like they say, which I think it probably will. So anyway, what we're going to do is, we got lots of little stuff like this laying around that we need to cut to length so that we can haul it out and cut it up into kindling. And then we'll come over and show you the tree we're going to finish cutting up. Well, come over and look at the tree that we dropped here. Got it into sections. And so we're going to cut that up pretty quick here. And then come back over here behind me. You can see all this tree debris here. So that's all got to be cut up. And little stuff like this, you can just break it in half. This is going to be used for kindling, and so we're just going to stack it up. We got a bunch of longer pieces in here, about 15-20 feet, and some more over there. And we're going to have to come back and branch the top part of the trees, two trees we dropped earlier. And then over here we have the top stuck in the other tree there, so we got to cut those down and get those out of there too. So anyway, got lots of work. So I'll be back when we're ready to start cutting up the tree. Okay, well, what we're going to be using here, going to be using our Oregon log jaw. And this spike here goes into the tree, and you can roll it up and it'll hold it, and it sits it up above the ground so we can cut it. And the idea of this is pretty good, but the execution was pretty poor. This tip here is made out of poor metal. It doesn't hold an edge, and this arm bends real easily, but if you're careful, it'll get us by. So anyway, we'll get the saw started and warmed up and be right back. Okay, well, we got some bunch of stuff we picked up here. This will be used for kindling. So I put the longest pieces out here, and I'll cut here. And then I'll go to this end and cut those off. And I'll cut here and here. So anyway, and then after that we're going to come over back here and drop those two pieces that are in the tree there. So anyway, get the saw going, be right back. Quick and easy. Then we take it over to our mini sawbuck I've shown in the last video and cut this up into short pieces of kindling. So, anyway, we'll meet you over at the tree here. There we go. Well, logging wouldn't be complete without a little axe work. Here's my favorite little Evansville axe. So anyway, we got the part of the tree here. It's got some limbs on it still, so we need to take those off. Pull it over and see if there's any more. Right there. Nothing beats a great axe. Evansville. Anyway, I'll pull another nut and branch it, and then we'll get them on the sawhorse, the sawbuck here. Be right back. Well, using my vintage log tongs here I found out at an old logging camp. Go back in some of the older videos and talk about it in more extent. But man, this thing is great. Drop it down. This one I want to have it hook in, so I'll just set it like that. Take it off, and then we'll branch it. Looks pretty good, so we'll get them on the sawbuck here and be right back. And get these pretty much about the same length here, just like that. And I got a couple more over here I'm going to grab too, so I'll be right back. Well, here's a couple of pieces towards the top, about 3/4 of the way up. That's where it had a Y in it, split, growing two branches, but here's a little teeny bit of foliage. So anyway, we got to branch these and we'll cut these up too. But that's pretty clean. Gotta have better aim sometimes. This one on. That's about an inch. You can see how easy that takes it off. Junk out of here. Now this one, that's a lot bigger branch, so we'll have a few chops on that. So see how many it takes. Six. You always want to work these so they're real close together, so when you're cutting it doesn't try to kick out on you. Okay, well, I want to talk about Mr. Pooh here. I was doing really good yesterday. I was cutting really good. And after we quit filming, it pooped out on me. It doesn't want to run now, or run barely. So acts like a fuel problem, although I went through the carburetor on it. Hard to find carb kits for these, and the one I got was a really low quality one. The holes didn't match up on the plates in the carburetor and stuff. I had to modify it a little bit, but anyway, if that isn't it, then I got a crank seal that failed on it, which is a common problem on these things. You know, these are low-end saws and they're known for their bad habits. So anyway, we'll be back with a different saw. Well, we're gonna do the work with our Homelite here because Mr. Pooh pooped out on me. Anyway, I'm going to be using Mr. Randy's Homelite 240. Late model Homelite. Talked about it a couple of videos ago. Kind of an El Cheapo saw, mostly plastic, but seems to run really good, fairly low hours. It's got a crappy safety chain. It's got really high guides here, rakers. So anyway, probably isn't going to be the fastest cutting, but at least it's a runner. So I'll get it warmed up and be right back. Well, you can see even with the crappy chain on it, it's a little bit better than a handsaw. Pull another couple of pieces out here, maybe cut them too. Okay, Bill, here's one half of the top of the tree. This is the bigger size, and the other size is a lot smaller, about half the diameter of this, but about 2/3 of the way up the tree it had a split. But you can see it's got lots of branches on it. This one was a lot healthier than most of them around here because it's got quite a bit of foliage on it, but still had to come out. So anyway, I'll give it the El Brancho treatment here. Plus it's good exercise and it's light. The little axe only weighs 1 1/4 pounds. Okay, I'm going to get the saw and cut it in half. Well, for what it is, it does pretty good. It's not real powerful, so I don't know if I'll put a good chain on it or not. I don't know if I'll pull it or not, but anyway, we've got all this to clean up and stuff, but we're gonna call it good for the video for now. And now we got coming up is vintage BS. Well, we're back for vintage BS, and we're going to be talking about different things that we collect and use for fun and for work both, but today I'm going to be talking about outboard motors. And I've had outboard motors ever since I was in the 5th grade. So anyway, this little rascal here is what's called an Elto Cub. and they were made from 1939 through 1941, and they're 1/2 of a horsepower. And here's a remake of the original ad. It's supposed to make your boat move 5 miles an hour, and cost $26.50. Like I say, 8.5 pounds. Right on the bottom there you can see it says built by Evinrude. Where the Elto name came from, if you're not familiar with it, stands for Evinrude Light Twin Outboard. Evinrude started making outboards in 1909, and by the mid-teens, late teens, they sold out, and they had a agreement with the people who bought Evinrude, which is Briggs & Stratton management guy, and not to make any outboard motors for 5 years. And even though the Evinrude motors were selling well, they didn't upgrade them, they just stayed the same. And upcoming videos will show you some of the early Evinrudes and how they evolved, if that's what people like to hear about. So anyway, in 1921, Evinrude come up with a new motor. It was a twin cylinder, and almost all the Evinrudes before that were single cylinders, and it was made mostly of aluminum, and so it stood for Evinrude Light Twin Outboard. And he offered to sell it to the Evinrude people, and they wouldn't buy it. They said, oh, it's not tested, we don't want it, it's too modern or something. But anyway, within a few years, Ole Evinrude made so much money he bought the Evinrude company back, and so in 1930 they made Outboard Marine Corporation, and they bought Lockwood and Coben and a few others and merged it together. And so this was the economy model, so the Elto name was used up until the mid-50s, and mostly in Canada, but it was the poor man's Evinrude. And even on this one, if you wanted to step up and have a real Evinrude instead of an Elto, there you go, they'd put a shroud on it, charge you some extra money for the same motor. Anyway, like I say, I use it on my canoe, and the only problem with it, the canoe is a 17-foot lake canoe, and it doesn't have enough thrust to keep it into the wind if the wind comes up. It requires at least 1 full horsepower to do that. But the nice thing about this little motor is when I had it on a bracket on the side of the canoe, if I was out fishing and it was bobbing around, I could reach over and just spin it with my fingers to start it. And so anyway, well, we'll put it on the test tank here and fire it up for you. Okay, well, you have to wrap the rope around this pulley up here, and then you open the vent on the gas tank, and then you turn on the fuel. Now this motor doesn't have a choke or a purge valve or anything like that, and what you do to flood it is on the front of the carburetor there's a little hole, and there's a float in there, and as the float pin comes up through the top, what you do is you hold it down briefly, and that'll flood the carburetor lightly. And you set your timing lever here to start position, and let's see how it goes. Well, not bad for 1939, eh? So anyway, like I say, I don't have that many hobbies. The main hobby is just collecting anything and everything with an engine or a motor on it, and then everything that goes with it. So that's just a single hobby. Anyway, outboards have been a lot of fun over the years, and boating in general. So anyway, come take a picture of the sign here. Well, I'm going to say that this motor is a milestone motor, and the reason for that, marketing was a big part of selling anything at that time, right before World War II. And so by having a really low priced motor like this, it introduced a whole lot of people to outboard boating that otherwise wouldn't have gone there. And then the other thing is that once you had it and found out it wouldn't hardly push any boat of any size, he wanted a bigger motor. So it worked. They sold lots of these. Lots of people got into outboard motors and boating before World War II and then after. Okay, well remember, vintage is best. If you like collecting outboard motors, if you live by lakes and stuff, old outboards are still easy to find and not too expensive. So I'd recommend them. So we'll see you on the next exciting video.